Hi, Easy here. Welcome to my 3.11 solo self-found starter build. This is going to be the build that I'm personally going to be running, and it's going to be a Fire Slam Chieftain. And normally I don't do league starters based on mechanics that got introduced that vary league. Normally I do things that are trusted and proven, like Blade Vortex and Poison and things like that. But I think there's enough brute force multipliers in these mechanics for us to just go ahead and start with it, really. And the first thing that I want to bring attention to is Festive Ward. Festive Ward support is specifically for slams, and it has a trigger of 1.8 seconds, or rather a cooldown of 1.8 seconds. But every single time you are ancestrally boosted, you have 148% more damage, 100% more damage with ailments, and 59% increased area of effect. So it just makes you huge. It makes you huge for that one hit, and then it goes on a cooldown for 1.8 seconds. But the idea is that it makes you so freaking huge that you only need to hit things once and then move on. And by the time your cooldown comes back up, you'll be at your next pack. And you'll be able to use the same thing again, and it'll be huge again because of the cooldown. And it promotes a hit and run playstyle. It also promotes slower attack speeds, which is perfect for two-handers. And I personally love a two-handed playstyle, mainly because it just feels really chunky. It feels really good, and I think this is the first time that I'm going to be able to really push endgame with a two-hander, because it just wasn't strong enough previously. But another mechanic that we're also using that got introduced is Seismic Cry. Warcries got changed so that they now have this thing called exertion, and every single warcry has its own exertion. For example, Intimidating Cry now gives you 2 exertions that deal double damage. So it's incredibly strong if you already have high damage. Seismic Cry gives you 30% more damage per exertion. So it gives you four exertions. The first one's going to be 30% more damage, 30% increased AoE. Second exertion is going to be 60% for both damage and area of effect. Third one is 90%. Fourth one is 120%. And if you get the notable, that gives you an extra exertion. That's 150% more damage and more AoE. Or sorry, not more, increased AoE. There is a difference off of this Warcry alone. And that's a lot of damage. And that's also a lot of AoE. So that's the main reason why I'm even considering this starter. I think there's enough support and enough brute force by GGG to promote this playstyle. And that's kind of where we head into the PoB. We are going to look at Path of Building, and we're going to first start out with why we're choosing Chieftain. Main reason being, I want to play with this new notable. It's Tawa for strength, and it gives us an extra slam basically every 2 seconds. It has an internal cooldown of 2 seconds, and it's going to copy your last slam that you perform. Now this copied slam doesn't actually benefit from things like exertions. It also doesn't benefit from the Festive Ward support. So it's basically as if you slammed without any of those active. But those, like, by no means does it make this weak. Just because it's not a 1-for-1 copy, 100% copy of what you're doing, doesn't necessarily make it weak. Now, I think it's going to be weaker and weaker as you get more gear, as you get more, as your build gets more fluid between Warcries, exertions, and Festive War and things like that. So perhaps this will be dropped in the future. So we might take a different notable instead of this. But I think early on in the league, I think this will be incredibly strong, especially when you don't have, when you're not fully invested into Warcries, when you're not fully invested into warcry speed or warcry cooldowns, I think it'll be incredibly strong for boosting your damage output early on. Another reason why we're going with Chieftain is for the 50% physical damage converted fire. I've always loved physical to elemental damage converted skills, converted method of playing the game, because I think it's really, it makes me feel smart. It makes me feel smart. It makes me feel like I'm doing something that's kind of hipster, but at the same time really strong. So I've always wanted to try it, but previously only cold damage was available on the skill tree. So you would need, you would only have 40% here, and that's pretty far away unless you're like a duelist or ranger. And otherwise, you would have to get something like Avatar of Fire, where you need to have a really nice Watcher's Eye with 40% conversion, or a double conversion gloves for that extra 50%, or Hymn Sorrow. So you're pretty limited in getting physical damage to fire, cold, or lightning conversion outside of gems and things like that. And I think this is the first time where we really have that flexibility to be able to go up to 90% conversion with no investment. It's like 3 passive points and 2 passive points here. And this notable by itself is actually quite strong because it gives us a 40% uptime. It's effectively gained 40% of physical damage as extra fire. So that alone is also very strong. So that's the main reason why we're going Chieftain. We get 50% here and we get 40% conversion here. This is new, by the way, so do check out all the changes of skill trees, but this is new, so this is pretty big. And we can get 10% from our gloves, and I actually haven't put that in, so we're doing 10% of our damage as physical. So we're only doing 90% damage on the PoB, but the PoB numbers aren't even accurate, so you don't even need to pay attention to that. But overall, by going that damage conversion route, we can take advantage of things like Herald of Ash. Herald of Ash is now incredibly strong because it gives us more damage from physical to extra fire. It also gives us the burn clear. It increases our clear speed because of the Herald effect. And it also has some really good synergy with the new Infernal Cry that we might want to use. So there's a lot of really good synergies that goes on. We can also take advantage of the fire leech covered in enemies with ash, fire resistance penetration, and things like that. So the skill tree itself is fairly self-explanatory. We take life nodes, we take this two-handed node, we might drop it in the future if we don't need it. We take life nodes over here, and we take these nodes right here for the fire damage conversion or fist to fire conversion. We take resolute technique because this is a starter and we don't want to have to worry about accuracy on our gear. We don't want to have to worry about maybe getting enlightened to be able to fit in on our extra aura. We don't want to have to deal with any of that. So we go ahead and take resolute technique. Another big reason is because crit got nerfed. So there's less crit and crit multi available on the skill tree in general. So that means that a lot of that's going to have to come from gear, which we don't have. So that's a big reason why we want to go with the resolute technique. We're using a mace. And and the main reason why we use a mace, actually, we got to go back to the GGG page, is because of this mace called Coronal Maul. Now, previously it had like 4% increased area of effect, which is trash, right? It's garbage. But now it has base skill area of effect. I believe it's 20%. So if the wording is not mistaken, this should increase our area of effect multiplicatively by 20% because it's the base skill area of effect, not increased but base. So based on the gems, we get 59% here on ancestrally boosted slams, and we get about on average 75% increased area of effect here from Seismic Cry. So that's a lot of increased area of effect that we get for free. We can also use Pulverize if you really want to, for extra area of effect. We can also take you know, notables here that gives us 5%, 5%, 12%. So that's 22% increase of effect. So there's a lot of area that's going on, and hopefully that fixes a lot of the issues with two-handers, which is the fact that sometimes we gotta hit things twice because we couldn't reach it the first time. And if you have to hit things twice with our slow attack speed, then it feels really bad. And I think GGG solution is to just cover the entire fucking screen with your AoE, and you never have to worry about hitting an enemy. And the fact that we're going with Herald of Ash, and we're going to be using you know, maybe possibly Infernal Cry, means that even stragglers are going to be cleaned up. So there's a lot of I think it's going to be fairly smooth, not as clunky as people make it seem. We're also and like I mentioned, we're going to be using multiple warcries, and I think this is the adequate amount of warcry investment. We have 1, 2, 3 warcry wheels that we're taking. I think this one's the most important because it gives us an extra exertion for Seismic Cry, which makes it so that we get 150%. It's basically like multi-strike versus awakened multi-strike. It's freaking huge in terms of the difference. So that's the main wheel that we want to take. But if things get a little too clunky, or let's say we have enough cooldown reduction that we don't need to worry about the cooldowns being shared, we can use Call to Arms to make them instant, and we can drop a lot of these notables that gives us warcry speed. So I think this one specifically has a lot of warcry speed. So we might be able to drop this and save us skill points, but I don't know how it's gonna feel. It's something that I gotta test. You know, cycling between multiple warcries, how's it gonna feel? Is it gonna be too slow? So that's gonna be something that I test on the fly. But overall, the skill tree is extremely flexible. We have a lot of jewels that I've put in that actually doesn't have anything, so we have even more skill points than what it initially seems. So 1, 2, 3, and then fourth one, which is just a 1-pointer. So that's for sure you want to take that. But you know, even when you're level 83, you can have all this. And we have 2 large jewel sockets available, so we can put in a large jewel cluster if you want. You can put in a medium cluster and just have a small cluster. So we have a lot of options. The only weakness of this skill tree so far is the fact that we're extremely stat starved. We need 155 dex for phase rush and dash. Is it, I don't know, is it phase rush? Yeah, phase run, sorry. And I think phase run is going to be massive for this build because of how slow our attack speed is. So we just activate phase run and then slam for 30% more damage. But that's 155 dex, so we're going to need a lot of dex from our amulet and our accessories. And we also need intelligence for skitterbots and combustion. So it is a little bit heavy in terms of stat requirements, but because we are a chieftain and we have 100% fire resistance from our ascendancy, that should free up a lot of our suffixes, suffixes to be able to craft on stats or half stats, and then craft on lightning or cold resistance. So I'm hoping that the gear requirement isn't as high as it seems. We're also we have enough skill points to take these 30 here, 30 here, 30 here, 30 here. You can also anoint this one right here, you know, clear Sapia. That's basically free. So that's 90 from the skill tree that we can get for free. Well, for relatively low cost, so hopefully it's not that big of a deal to get that 155 dex to be able to use dash instead of something like leap slam. So that's pretty much the skill tree. I think we have good life, and we don't actually have any gear on right now. So this life total is going to be somewhere up to 6,000 to 7,000. So that's really nice. We're also taking advantage of the new keystone imbalance guard to make sure we don't even have to invest into armor that much. We have 150% increased armor, but we probably won't be hitting that 50% reduction. So we have this here. If we do hit it, we can just take it off, no big deal. But yeah, there's a lot of options for what we can do. I'm trying to work out my sockets so that I can drop a 6th link and run Calm's Heart for even more life. So if you throw in a Calm's Heart, that's gonna be actually, yeah, we're already at 6,000 life, right? So we're missing like 100 life here on Helm, like 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80. So that's what, 6, 7 times 80, 560. So you can expect another 7,500 life, give or take. We also have maximum lives that we can put into sockets. So this is a pretty chunky fucking build, right? We also get Enduring Cry to regenerate our life. We also have endurance charges from that same Enduring Cry. So it's a pretty chunky Chieftain. And hopefully we have enough damage with all the multipliers to be able to clear. Now it's not going to be a face roll build where you just run around and just right click on things. You will have to rotate through your warcries. You'll have to keep track of your possibly your Festive Ward support cooldown as well as your exertion numbers, so that you can really get that huge beefy hit with 150% extra damage or more damage from the Seismic Cry, and then the 148% from Festive Ward support as well. But yeah, I think it'll be a really fun build. I'm gonna keep you guys posted on everything that I do. I haven't decided if I want to use Sunder or Earthquake. I'm leaning towards Sunder in the beginning, and then if it feels really shitty, I'll swap over to Earthquake. So no big deal there. They both scale exactly the same. But yeah, I think it'll be really fun. I'll keep you guys posted as I progress through the league, and I'm really looking forward to this build. I'm actually gonna try and make a build for every ascendancy this league. That's one of my goals, I think. Hopefully I don't get burnt out too quickly, but I think it will be extremely fun to present that kind of challenge to myself, especially in Soul Spellbound. So hope you guys look forward to the future content, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.